to really make the point over and over again. There's the one thing that they do every time, every freeholder meeting, every freeholder has a moment to make their own comments. The public has a moment to make their own comments. We have got some things on the table today. We would have liked to have put them out in front.
Bring transparency to the whole process.
We can't force it.
The fact of the matter is, that's right, we won't be able to force it. I mean, that's an absolute fact. It would be 2 out of 5. But the fact is, if we are transparent and can let the people know how their money is being spent. Since 2013, taxes in Ocean County have gone up 12.4%. That's quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone up that way, not in terms of the budget, because you'll hear the budget has kept down and been steady. But the amount of taxes that are paid for towards that budget have gone up 12% since 2013. I didn't go back as far as 2012 because that was the year Sandy, so I did expect a bump in the tax rate the following year to make, we lost ratables. But what's been happening since is that the ratables keep coming back and we keep raising the rate. Well, I remember when Sandy first occurred, there was a thought by many people that as the ratables came back, the rate would stop increasing. It hasn't happened. We're literally spending $37 million more now than we did in 2013. And I find it amazing that we can't find ways to find places in the budget where we can cut back on the amount of money we're spending.
Okay, so where do you see bloat, Ed? Where would you put the knife first?
And I just want to extend on Ed's comments on that one point. We do sort of think we understand where the tax increases are. It is bloat. There's certainly some of that, but there also was they did borrow an awful lot of money for I'm going to air quote Sandy relief, even though they haven't done a very good job of it. And then they hurried to pay it back. At the last freeholder meeting, they sort of congratulated themselves about their great AAA bond credit rating, which is great. That's a good thing. But they literally went on to say, well, now Jack Kelly gets to run as a freeholder director who has a AAA bond rating. I think they rushed that for electoral purposes, quite frankly.
Rushed what?
Rushed to pay back the Sandy debt, and that's part of why the taxes have gone up. But they do also have certain patronage things that they do have to. They feel they have to handle. And Ed'll, I'm sure, have a lot to say about that.
I'm from the private sector. That's where I live and work. And maybe it's naivete on my part, but looking at some of the things that people in county government, and particularly freeholders, are allowed to do, they don't surprise me, but they kind of make me upset. I'm sorry.
Example,
that they can collect pensions while being paid. Part-timers there's no private business in New Jersey where part-time employees have health benefits from their company. Right. I don't know of any that does. Yet our freeholders, which is a part-time job, that's what it is, are allowed to participate in a health care program. Why? Why can't everybody do it?
If you were in that position, would you turn it down?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, unlike Mr. Kelly, who was worried about going to the parole, I'm not looking to do anything else in my career in terms of politics. I want to be a freeholder. I want to be a good freeholder. I'm not looking for a municipal job anywhere else. I'm not looking for a political appointment anywhere else. This is what I want to do.
Okay, so let's look for a second. By the way, before we get any further, let me just remind everybody we're speaking with Ed Wolf and Michael Cook tonight. They are Democratic candidates for Ocean County Freeholder this November. They'll be on your ballots. Now, let's look at the job description. Mm. How do you envision the job of freeholder from where you stand? How do you envision it from where they stand? What do you think is going on, and what would you do as a freeholder that you don't think is being done now?
Well, if we have the ability, the sort of collaborative ability to do this with them, which I'm not sure we would, or if we had the majority vote, really, when it comes to county jobs, either it's a civil service job, which is, you're obviously qualified, list, you do what it takes to get your civil service job, or to the extent possible, the job, in our opinion, shouldn't exist. We're going to be looking at all the jobs that are in civil service and all the appointments and see what exactly are the, have these people explain to us what they're doing. We'll see what their productivity is. We'll see what they bring to the county. If we can't figure out what they do for a living, the next thing we want to know is whose cousin are they? Because that's really apparently the problem. And Ed's about to jump out of his chair. So
no. And I'm sorry I speak with me.
It's okay. We're visible.
Okay. And we also, they seem to treat each one of their little positions as pipe balls. They don't question each other publicly about what's going on. Things go through, like the fact that Mr. Vicari did say, what $1.3 million study? He's part of that group. That shouldn't be something that comes from him. He should have been aware of it. Yet I think as things, and this again, I don't live and work there, so I'm not sure, but I think, or it seems to me, that as long as it's one of these, I won't look too hard at yours if you don't look too hard at mine. And I think that's got to stop. I think we need more transparency, not just with the public, but even among the freeholders. Protecting your fiefdom is one thing, but excluding others from understanding what it says and what it is another.
And just having two dissident people on the board, even if we can't impose anything on them, we'll change things because we're not going to go along necessarily with the way they've done things before to the extent we can avoid it. I mean, the freeholders meetings are at 4:00. It's I'm sure you've been, it's a very interesting situation. Everybody's wearing a county badge. There's not really anybody there because most people at 4:00 are either working or, maybe they're at an early dinner.
So you would push for a different
We should
time.
definitely start it at, different times. And also, Toms River is all the way up in the, almost as far north in Ocean County as you can go. Southern Ocean County, just as important bunch of people. It's hard to just sort of casually in the course of your day go to a freeholder meeting if you live in Stafford.
Ed Wolf and Michael Cook are our guests. They are running for Ocean County Freeholder this November. You'll see them on your ballots. And we're going to have a few more minutes to explore the platform and the policies with them when we return right after this.
Do you have $10,000 or more in outstanding federal student loans? Well, you may qualify to have your entire student loan forgiven with one free call. That's right. If you're a teacher, police officer, firefighter, or work for a nonprofit, you may qualify for new federal programs to have your entire student loan forgiven. Graduate Service Center wants to give you free information on all the programs that can help. And the sooner you call, the faster you can get relief. Get the maximum loan forgiveness, loan reduction, or consolidation available. Plus, find out in the first free call what you qualify for. A loan forgiveness specialist is standing by to answer all of your questions for free. So stop worrying about student loan payments. If you have $10,000 or more in federal student loans, this information could change your life. Call 800-375-1169. 800-375-1169. Wipe out your federal student loan debt. Call 800-375-1169. That's 800-375-1169.
This fall, join us at The Glow, a jack-o'-lantern experience, a new and brilliant wonderland happening every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, beginning October 7th at Monmouth Park Racetrack. Come with us for a quarter-mile walk down Jack's Lane, a magical world where you'll experience everything from elaborately detailed single pumpkin carvings to amazing larger-than-life structures. The Glow brings to life a spectacular pumpkin wonderland with more than 5,000 illuminated jack-o'-lanterns. Glow with pride through the Jersey Jaunt, a memorable tour of Jersey's most famous. Marvel at the ghostly pirate ship Revenge, led by Captain Jack and his band of marauders, and wander into Prehistoric Park, where you'll stare into the glowing eyes of our 16-foot dinosaurs. The Glow will take place beginning October 7th at Monmouth Park Racetrack every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 6:30 to 10:30 p.m. and is sure to capture audiences of all ages. Tickets are on sale now, with admission starting at $16. For more information, check out theglowjackolantern.com.
Now back to Townsquare Tonight on WOBM-AM 1160, 1310, and WOBMAM.com.
Welcome back. Our guests are Ed Wolf and Michael Cook, candidates on the Democratic line for Ocean County Freeholder in November 2016. I have a few more minutes, and I did want to get back to something that you brought up right in the beginning, Mr. Cook, and that was the opiate problem we have here.
Yes.
Your exact words were, the job is not getting done. Words to that effect. Where is the gap here? I mean, I'm seeing arrests every day. I'm seeing massive amounts of this stuff being taken off the street. So what is not being done?
Well, there was an article that came out the other day, probably a month ago by now, about overdoses. And the top 30 towns in New Jersey who've had the largest increases of overdoses in 2015, 8 of them are in Ocean County. Those towns are on a list with Elizabeth, Camden, Atlantic City. I think Newark is on there. That's not a very good list. There's, as far as I know, one, maybe, we're not quite sure how much it's being supported by the county. One treatment center supported by the county. The rest are being supported are private facilities. And what we hear when we speak to different people in the community who have this, have addiction in their family, or people, friends or loved ones that they care about who are experiencing opioid addiction, is they can't get into programs. They don't have insurance, or their insurance doesn't cover any of the programs that are available, or there aren't beds available. Right now, of the very few treatment beds that we have in New Jersey, the vast majority of them are being taken up by programs run by our criminal justice system. So drug court, IEP, which is an early release program, an intensive early release program, the new bail amendment, excuse me, is going to send a lot more people to rehab. And they're sort of either forcing or coercing people into rehab. We'll give you a better sentence, we'll give you a better deal, something like that, to go into rehab. Well, not everybody who is caught with drugs or taking drugs has an addiction. And we know statistically, National Institute of Health statistics, that if you force somebody to go into rehab who doesn't want to go into rehab, they don't do nearly as well. In fact, in a lot of cases, it exacerbates the problem, and the number 3 cause of death for people in rehab is overdose, which sounds crazy. You're in a rehab. What we need to move more towards is to provide more rehab facilities and let people go in there voluntarily. When people go voluntarily, and we're hearing a lot of people who want to go in there and get themselves cleaned up and who have addiction issues, they're much more successsul. So that's the problem at this point.
So it really isn't on the law enforcement end; it's on the
treatment end.
The treatment end.
And frankly, we've been doing the war on drugs for 50 years now. We know that we cannot stop the flow to an extent that it will stop having enough supply for the people who want it. We've been doing it for 50 years, and it's never worked. And Ed might know a little bit about this. When it comes to companies that ship things overseas, they account for things falling into the water. There's, last I read, maybe 8,000 otherwise perfectly functional cars in the oceans of the world that just fell off ships when companies used to ship them across the ocean rather than just make them where they were going. The these drug cartels they account for losing product over the course of the way. So the police officers and law enforcement are working very hard. They're very talented people doing an exceptional job getting all the stuff off the street, but it's really not having the effect. It's clearly not having the effect when we have all these opioid deaths in a county where we're taking a lot of stuff off the street. I mean, it's plainly clear it's not working. And, we've centered our drug policy around law enforcement, and we've asked them to do a job that they're not necessarily it's just not something that they have the wherewithal or the proper approach to deal with. Now, as freeholders, we can't do anything about the law, who the police arrest, what they go after, but what we can do is work with the legislature to get funding, the various nonprofits to get funding, and take whatever money we are spending on these rehab programs that aren't working and put them into rehab programs that do work.
Let me ask you, we only have a couple of minutes left, so let me ask you this one overriding question. And we already established that even if you win, you are 2/5 of the board. So, not that you're always going to be contentious if you actually agree with something. You're not going to be contentious just for the sake of that. But let's look at the bigger picture. You are also dealing with an electorate which is overwhelmingly Republican in Ocean County. Even if you got every Democratic vote, you would still have the Republican votes that you didn't get. So what is your strategy for changing hearts and minds on that level? Many people of whom don't vote out of conscience, but vote out of political expediency.
And yet these are the same people that when you meet them and talk about them and ask them, what's the biggest problem in your life? Say the same thing time and again. Taxes. We pay too much taxes. I hear that constantly. So if we're paying too much taxes, and we know it's not the federal government raising their tax rate, and we know it's not the state raising their tax rate, who is it? It's the county and the local municipalities, which, by the way, in Ocean County, to your point, are all run by the Republican Party, by and large.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the definition of insanity? To keep doing the same thing over and over again.
And expect different
And
results.
expect different results.
Right.
Well, as long as the people who are there continue to be there unchallenged, nothing's going to change. You're not going to know, you're not going to see any difference. You're not going to know what's going on because nobody's there is advocating other than what they agree to, what the people in elected office currently agree to. And as for an uphill battle, you're absolutely right. But if we really do want to change, if we really do want to start a change, it's got to start somewhere. If we just sit back and say, well, nothing's going to change. We got too many, there's so many Republicans, we're Democrats. Guess what? Nothing will change. It's time for people to vote for their needs. Their needs are to reduce the amount of money they're pouring into the county and into the municipal governments as well.
Our guests are Ed Wolf and Michael Cook. We're glad you had a chance to hear a little bit about what they plan to do if they are elected to office. Any final comments, gentlemen?
To extend on Ed's comments, look, there's actually more independent or undeclared voters in this county than Democrats and Republicans combined. They're probably a little bit. They probably have a party that they consider themselves aligned with, but they're obviously welcome to having their heart changed. And I think if you go into this and raise issues that are important to people and go into it with a servant's heart and convince them that you want to help them, you want to do what's best, that's the only thing you can really do and hope for the best.
And that is really our goal. All we want to do is what's best.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your time tonight.
Thank you,
Best of
Tom.
luck in the election. Townsquare tonight is a presentation of Townsquare Media in New Jersey Shore News Division. Technical coordination and call facilitation by Mark Anthony. Video and audio coordination by Bradley James and Tom Tremblay. Programming consultation, Steve Artelina. Townsquare, New Jersey's Vice President of News Operations is Eric Scott. My name is Tom Rongelli. Thank you for joining us. Next week, Jack Kelly and Ginny Haynes, right here.